CSEA. I stand before you tonight in opposition to the Dutchess County Executive proposed budget, specifically cuts to the Department of Mental Hygiene and the abolishment of the 22 jobs. Over a year ago, representatives of the 22 employees met with the county officials as they outlined their plan to transition the mental hygiene clinics to a private organization. In this meeting, it was clear this process would progress forward through attrition and would take a couple of years for completion. There would be no layoffs. The union at that time was on board with this plan. Now, a year and a half later, the county has violated these good faith discussions with the union. And now, without discussion, the county executive proceeded to violate their employment contract with these employees. These employees may also have a lawsuit claim against their employer for intentionally violating a contract. Dutchess County continues to play politics, and they put politics before people. Aside from this, there needs to be a model for these mental hygiene consumers who do not fit into the so-called pros model. Otherwise, we will continue to pay for these individuals, but at a much higher cost, whether through social services, or through nursing homes, or police service. And housing in nursing homes would cause a safety risk for the elderly. We as a society have become desensitized to the news of the layoffs, and members of the community actually embrace layoffs without putting much thought what layoff means to families and especially children in the community. Layoffs are the easy way out for leaders to balance the budget. Dutchess County employees have been the target, and Dutchess County has balanced the budget on these very employees who do not have a voice with an appointed department head, while the employees of elected officials remain stable, and with the blink of an eye, these positions are restored to the budget. Once again, politics before people. I understand taxpayers, and I am one of them, do not want their taxes to go up, and I am sympathetic to that concept. However, as a society, some people do, the same people do not want jobs lost, whether to private companies or overseas, because loss of jobs helps no one, not the people that need the service, not to families, and not to the economy. The public does not want to see government waste. This decision seeks sacrifice from the very individuals who are unable to do without these services. So please restore these positions to the mental hygiene budget and add the corresponding revenue of $1.5 million that was offered by the state to cover the cost of these services. Thank you.
Carol Madrid, 40 Manitou Avenue, City Poughkeepsie resident. Last night, I served as a volunteer from a local church to help serve 48 meals to clients through Hudson River Housing Emergency Overnight Shelter at Hillcrest. Volunteers of local churches have been relied on to serve the evening meal at the overnight shelter for many years. The lunchbox of Dutchess Outreach serves 6 lunches a week to local people who would otherwise go hungry. The budget cut to Hudson River Housing for the 2010 year budget was $106,987. And the current proposed cut is $191,000 less for Hudson River Housing, which is this is $191,000 less than they received in 2009, than their budget allotment. It seems to me that if Hudson River Housing has had to rely on church volunteers to serve meals since as far back as I can remember to homeless people who would otherwise go hungry, at least 20 years or more. Budget of Hudson River Housing should be raised instead of significantly lowered.
Good evening. Either I'm really, really tall or everybody else is really, really short. Hello, my name is Heather Kitchen. I'm a local attorney and I'm here to give you a slightly different perspective than what you've already had with regard to the public defender's proposal, which I know that you're more than familiar with. I've been a practicing attorney for probably about 25 years. I do not take assignments. I have a completely 100% privately retained case base, so I don't have any vested interest in the 18B panel. But I come into contact with them every day, and I can tell you that the level of their representation with indigent clients is unparalleled. I'm also knowledgeable about the workings of the public defender because I'm the judge in the town of Wappingers. I have my own public defender who's assigned to my court, and they handle the vast majority of my cases involving indigent clients. Now, while I have a great deal of respect for the public defender, their proposal for the family court unit will simply not work. It will not save the county money, and it will not offer a higher quality of representation for any of our residents. The public defender who prepared the proposal has absolutely no working knowledge of how family court works. I'm not being critical, that's simply the fact. Family court works completely different than criminal court, and that's the only level of knowledge that the public defender has. Because of their unfamiliarity with how our family court works, their proposal is less than meaningless. The average criminal case involves meeting with the client once or twice. They obtain a plea offer from the DA's office, they tweak it a bit, they come to court, they take a plea, the case is over, okay? This may happen once, twice, the case may go on for months and months, but very little happens. Family court is completely different. Their original proposal involves 6 lawyers. Now, my understanding is their proposal involves 2 lawyers. It's going to take on 33% of basically the 18B channel. That's absurd. It's never going to work. Our family court has 2 judges, it has 2 magistrates, and it has 1 court referee. Every week, one judge has what's called a duty week, okay? And in that duty week, they have a morning calendar and an afternoon calendar. The morning calendar has anywhere from 30, maybe 45 cases, that's average. Now let's assume this one public defender has 33% of those cases. You're talking about 22 cases on that calendar they're going to have in the morning and in the afternoon, okay? You know what that means? They're never going to leave the courtroom. And on the average day, when I appear in family court as a privately retained attorney, I may have 3 cases on at the same time, okay? Now, part of being in family court means whenever you're in family court, you have to talk to every client while you're in court. Every client has an emergency issue, every single client. Somebody isn't getting visitation, somebody's got an order of protection, somebody isn't getting money, somebody can't see their kids, somebody's worried that their husband's going to kill them. Everyone has emergency issues they have to be dealt with every day. You have to talk to your client while you're in court. And then you have to talk to the opposing counsel and hopefully address those issues. That takes time. If I have 3 cases on in court, I can probably handle all 3 cases in the time it takes before I'm called into the court. If you have 12 or 15 or 20 cases on the calendar, it's not going to happen. You're going to sit in court and the judge isn't going to let you leave the courtroom because every case he calls, you're on one of those sides. Because you never get a chance to talk to the client, you never get a chance to talk to the opposing counsel, and you never get a chance to do anything. So what happens if that happens? Here's what happens. This is what I'm telling you is going to happen if this goes through. You're going to have children whose lives are at risk because all of these emergency interim issues can never be addressed. We're talking about the calendars literally coming to a screeching halt because cases can't be resolved, emergency issues can't be addressed, nothing's going to happen. Not only will this not save you money, it's going to cost you money. And the family court judges aren't going to get anything done. And I'm hearing now that they're going to offer these poor attorneys $35,000. Are you kidding me? I worked for the county attorney's office in 1991. I was assigned to the Department of Social Services to prosecute child abuse and neglect. You know what my salary was then? $29,000. And now you're offering these people $35,000. You know how much my legal secretary makes in my office? I pay her $50,000 in benefits. You know how much my receptionist makes? $25,000 plus benefits. You're not going to get anybody to take these jobs, and if you do, they're not going to be qualified. I'm telling you right now that the model proposed by the public defender is It's not gonna save money, it's gonna bog the calendars down, it's gonna cost the money, it's gonna cost the county more money. I beg you, don't do it. Tweak the 18B panel, but don't use the model prepared by the Public Defender's Office.
Joan Crawford, Gus Kazolius, Kelly Bilyeu, and Edward Tucker.
Hello, my name is Joan Crawford. I'm the Deputy Executive Director for Family Services. Every year, thousands of Dutchess County residents come through our doors. Over 10,000 people call our hotlines. And we know that these are very difficult times and difficult choices have to be made. And certainly we know that times are very difficult for the people we serve. So tonight I'm here very simply just to say thank you for your continued support.
My name is Constantine Gazolis. I live in the city of Poughkeepsie all my life. For better or for worse, I'm here. First and foremost, Dutchess County has a very dedicated professional workforce. Even without a teacher's tri-borough amendment provision contract, county workers have had their monies frozen for several years. It would be nice if the county approved one, knowing as per the New York State Court of Appeals ruling recently, the contract isn't worth the paper it's written on. Another concern of mine is DC funds for the family partnership where vendors are covered under the 501c3 IRS tax exemption. Pop Warner Football in the city of Poughkeepsie lost their 501c3 exemption, which came out a proviso in that is that an annual financial statement be given by each 501c3 to municipalities. Has this been done by those who are covered under the umbrella of the family partnership? This is something that pertains to growth in Dutchess County. And listen very carefully. After listening for several hours testimony on YNNDC public hearing held in Sullivan Community College on hydrofracking, the speakers are very informative. Without giving you a long list of concerns and objections, I will note several this board should take notice. One, the wastewater from the operation is hazardous, and it is either pumped into a holding tank or only be dumped back into the water table or aquifer. Two, New York City does not want any hydrofracking drilling over its watershed. Why? You guessed it. And three, those property owners who sold out are muzzled for 7 years by the contract we signed. They're probably down in Florida. I know how to save $1 million. Annually, it would be the reduction of the Dutchess County Legislature from 26 to 6. The former Dutchess County legislator, Van the Paint Man, who moved to Florida, mentioned that to me years ago. Why not here in Dutchess County? This one here, you can cut me off anytime you want. Finally, the U.S. spends $2.1 million per minute around the clock for defense. The Kosovo, both Iraq wars, Afghanistan, Libya were nations that did not attack any NATO country. If it were, the entire rest of NATO countries, by charter, would go to war against the aggressor. Incidentally, my nephew, who is a journalist in Paris, he got taken off the thing because he brought that to their attention. But him and Chikozy, they don't get along too good, which you can understand the reason why. War was not declared by Congress, and the U.S. can possibly be in those countries for decades, like South Korea, the forgotten war, which I am an era veteran at that time. The JFK assassination was 37 Warren Commission volumes with Lee Harvey Oswald being a lone assassin. Why the 75-year cover-up of pertinent information? This is the point I'm going to drive home. Also, why the 30-year cover-up impoundment of FBI 911 info? Osama wasn't on the FBI's 10 most wanted list for 911. Osama said he had nothing to do with 911. The SEAL 16 was the assassin. He went in, Well, I got this, not a paragraph, and I'll give you, I'll submit this thing. So dead men tell no tales. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, the video is worth 1,000,000. That's why from the alleged assassination to the dumping overboard from the billion-dollar aircraft carrier Vincent, which did not have an 8-foot tape, but he had to lay down a 6-foot sailor next to the 6'4" Osama. Come on. For your information, why in less than 2 months later, the same SEAL Team 6 got suckered in and got wasted being ambushed in Afghanistan. SEAL teams are sworn to secrecy by law. Once again, dead men tell no tales. Once again, I'll say this, and a lot of things, this is the most immoral country in the world, but it does everything legally, and I feel very strongly about that. Here, let me give this to Patty or one of the girls up there. When we gotta bring those kids home, you're better off. You want to hear post-traumatic stress driven and all the other kids that goes with it.
Hi, I'm a little nervous. I'm Kelly Billieu. I am a taxpayer in Dutchess County. I was born and raised in Dutchess County. I'm raising my daughter in Dutchess County. And I am an affected employee in the proposed layoff to the Department of Mental Hygiene. Before I came to work for the Department of Mental Hygiene, I worked at Hudson River Psychiatric Center. So I've been doing this for about 24 years. I started very young. I've seen a lot of advances over the years. I have. When I started working in mental health, there was a lot of people in the hospital. And then I transitioned and I was working in the community in a reinvestment project through Hudson River. And I got to see a lot of success. But we're down to the end. Hudson River's closing. And there's some people that just can't go back to work. There's some people that are so severely and persistently mentally ill that I worry about. I truly worry about. They're terrified. About 2 years ago, my supervisors visited all of our units and told us, don't worry, we have a plan. We're going to transition this. We're going to bring in a new program, PROS. That's the way billing's going. It's going to work, don't worry. So we trusted them, and we did more with less. As our coworkers were transitioned to other departments where there was empty spots, they left, we stayed, and we served these people. We provided therapy. We provide everything for them. It's so hard for them to trust, and it's such an important relationship. And as occupations staff started to work with us, we became a team with them. And now suddenly, because there's 22 of us left, and the economy sucks, I'm sorry, I don't mean to say that, but because the economy is so bad, we can say, okay, let's step this up, let's move it out. My patients are terrified. They're absolutely terrified. And then we have trust in our contract, our agreement, that says, we won't do you wrong. You do this, we do that. You do this, we do that. We've been working for 2 years without a pay raise. We don't have a pay raise. We've stayed. Our workload's gotten heavier. Employees have left. We've been downsizing. Patients haven't downsized. In fact, Hudson River's discharging them. There's no beds at St. Francis Hospital. That's been reduced too. It's so frightening. Please don't let this happen. Please do not let this happen. Let the transition happen. Let it happen. I've been told that, there was this reinvestment kind of money that $1.5 million. I've even been told where I might work when that happens. I was looking forward to a change. I was going to help people transition from back into, people that have been hospitalized, help them come back, help them link with services, try and keep them in the community and not put them in the hospital or transfer them to another area of the state where their family can't see them. And that's not going to happen. Please don't let this happen. These are real people. And they're so vulnerable. And they're scared. guess that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Edward Tucker. Is there, okay.
Good evening. My name is Edward Tucker. I currently live in the town of Wapenter. Previously, I lived in Fishkill and in Beacon. I've had over 40 years of working experience in human services. I've had about 30 years of working experience in the criminal justice system. I've worked with juvenile offenders, drug abusers, and adult criminals. I've worked in minimum, medium, and maximum security facilities. One of the things that I've noted, and I've worked from counselor, I've gone from counselor to prison superintendent. One of the things I've noticed is that the institutions, the correctional institutions that I've worked in, year after year, had a larger and larger percentage of inmates who had mental health problems, a larger and larger percentage. And in fact, within the maximum security prisons, what was developed were psychiatric satellite units. So in essence, the prisons deinstitutionalized in terms of mental health. Now, deinstitutionalization is a big thing over the years, both in the mental health field and in the criminal justice field. In addition to what I've said already, I was the first director of the Community Transition Center, which was an alternative to incarceration program located right here on Manson Street in Poughkeepsie. And it was carried out in conjunction with the Dutchess County Office of Probation. And as an aside, you can be very proud of, and the residents of Dutchess County can be very proud of its probation department and its mental health department. And speaking of mental health, a little over 30 years ago, the Dutchess County Legislature appointed me to the Mental Hygiene Board. And between my experience on that board, I learned that the residents of Dutchess County, have some very dedicated people who work in the Department of Mental Hygiene. Now, what I would like to do is to point out that there is a nexus, there is a relationship between the criminal justice system and mental health. The Division of Parole cannot effectively supervise criminal offenders who are released into the community. And most criminal offenders who are in prison do come into the community. And it's not simply enough to tell an inmate who's been in a psychiatric satellite unit that he should simply use these psychotropic drugs and good luck. It's very important that person has supportive services, community-based supportive services in the mental health department. And what I want to stress, and I came out of retirement because I was very concerned when I heard that you were going to reduce the services, reduce the employees in the mental health department. What is very important, and I learned this both when I was a practitioner in working with juveniles, drug addicts, and criminal offenders, what I learned is that one of the most important things in the rehabilitative process is the therapeutic relationship. And it is that therapeutic relationship that keeps many people who are multi-troubled anyway from becoming recidivists and going back into negative behavior. One of the things I'm very concerned about, because I have been on the Criminal Justice Council, and I know that the problem with jail overcrowding and solutions are being sought. But one of the things I'm very concerned about is that if the therapeutic relationship is disrupted abruptly with mental health patients, some of them are going to recidivate Some of them are going to not only decompose and have problems and maybe commit suicide and that kind of thing, or touch up against someone, but some of them are going to go back into a life of crime. And community safety in Dutchess County will be seriously affected. The mental health services, actually, because of institutionalization, need to be increased rather than decreased. Thank you.
We have gone through our list of people who wanted to speak before the legislature tonight. I'd like to thank you for coming, and this will conclude the public hearing at this time.